Hello, Christ Church family. I'm so excited as we enter this new year to present to you a different leadership structure for the church. You may have heard that we are moving from a church council format with several committees to what is commonly called a leadership board format, where there's one committee that helps run and lead the administrative function of the church. I've done several town halls and presentations, but not everybody's able to attend a town hall. So I present to you the reason behind having a leadership board and how the leadership board will work for Christ Church well into the future. So how long does it take to hire a facilities manager? This calendar is a hypothetical representation of how business was done under the old model here at Christ Church. So on Monday, January the 4th, the trustees meet. They meet on the first day of Monday of every month. They decide we need a facilities person. They reach out to the Pastor-Parish Relations Committee to approve a job description. PPR meets on the third Thursday of every month. Thursday, January 21st, PPR meets to approve the job description. PPR reached out to the Finance for budget approval. Finance meets the second Thursday of every month. Thursday, February 11th, the Finance Committee meets to consider funding. Finance discusses the facilities person budget change and wonders if it might cost less to just increase the cleaning service contract instead of adding staff. Finance requests trustees to look into this option at their next monthly meeting. Monday, March 1st, trustees deem hiring is the best option, and they communicate this back to Finance. Finance meets later that month. Thursday, March 11th, Finance approves a change to the budget to hire a facilities person as requested by the trustees. Thursday, March 25th, Church Council meets quarterly, the last Thursday of each quarterly month, and the budget change is approved. Under our current leadership model, it would take us 80 days to just make a decision to hire someone to work in our facilities. That is part of the challenge of what we have under our current leadership structure, and one of the many reasons why it's good that we're moving to a leadership board. This is a chart of our current structure. The charge conference is, of course, the ultimate governing authority for the congregation. Then we have the church council, which has 21 members. Reporting to the church council are the finance committee with 18 members, the trustees with 9 members, PPR with 9 members, and then all of the ministry areas, representatives from children's ministries and adults ministries, the worship team and the choir, groups like that all meet with the church council. Between the finance trustee and PPR meetings and the church council meetings, on average, we as a church spend 902 hours or 22 work weeks in committee meetings. Now, the positive side of this structure is that we have a broad representation of the congregation, but there are a lot of negatives that come with this. It has made our church slow-moving and inflexible, and it's turned our leadership into a gatekeeper to resources instead of a leadership group that empowers ministry to happen well into the future. The proposed structure is very different and much more efficient. Of course, just as before, the charge conference is the ultimate governing authority of Christ Church United Methodist. However, the leadership board replaces church council, trustees, finance, and PPR. It is composed of 16 members, 15 of whom vote. The leadership board is also supported by the Leadership Development Committee, the nominating committee, by the ministry forum and staff, which is the groups that I'd mentioned before. Children's ministry representatives, adult ministry representatives, missions committee representatives, all the ministry areas relate to the leadership board as they had done to the church council. And then you see task groups. Sometimes we'll have special projects that the leadership board needs to take on, and they can form ad hoc committees whenever they need to gather information and do research and bring that information back to the leadership board for decision making. Under this model, we would only be meeting 340 hours a year instead of the well over 900 that we are doing currently. The leadership board is the voice of Christ Church leadership. It is the way that the congregation's elected representatives work out ministry for the church together. So, how exactly will all of this work? As I'd said before, there are 16 positions with 15 voting positions. We need 9 in attendance for a quorum. Finance issues will be discussed by all members of the leadership board, and all 15 voting members may vote. Trustees issues will be discussed by all members of the leadership board, but because of the disciplinary requirements, only the 9 at-large members may vote on trustee issues. PPR, or staffing issues, would be discussed in executive session by the 9 at-large representatives, the chair, the vice chair, the lay leader of the church, and the senior pastor of the church as well. And just as with trustees, only the 9 at-large members may vote. Now, when I say executive session, I want you to think about a school board. When a school board holds a public meeting, when they have to discuss confidential human resources issues, they close the doors to that meeting and they handle that at the end of their agenda. It's very similar to what we're doing here. The Leadership Development Committee will continue to nominate new members of the Leadership Board as they roll off. We are encouraging the nominating committee to be mindful to have a good balance of people with PPR skills, finance skills, and trustee skills. The senior pastor will serve ex officio at all sessions, both open and closed. The ministry forum is really where a lot of the leadership and the strategic thinking is going to take place. You'll have your worship teams, your hospitality teams, your discipleship teams, youth and children's, care and compassion and missions. All will be working with the leadership board to cast a vision for ministry, to align the ministries with the overall vision for the church, and to seize on ministry opportunities as they present themselves. There are 13 representatives from the ministry forum. All have voice at the meeting. They do not have vote. The votes are restricted to the actual members of the leadership board. The nominating committee, the leadership development committee, will function as it always has. It will be independent of the leadership board. It will have 9 members, each person serving a 3-year term, and it will be chaired by the nominating committee. It will nominate and bring forward people to fill open positions on the leadership board, and those nominations will be approved at charge conference. So what would a typical leadership board meeting and ministry forum look like? Well, we see it happening in 3 different segments. We love, we learn, and we lead. We begin in our gathering with just visiting and a light meal, a time of fellowship, and a time for worship. We learn together as the representatives of the ministry forum talk to us about what's going on in ministry, what the opportunities are, where the growth areas are, and what resources might be needed for them to be able to be effective in what they're doing. The Leadership Development Committee will continue to train and guide the leadership board as it lives into its new role. The senior pastor will cast vision for the church and work towards aligning ministry with that vision. And there will also be some pre-reads at every meeting dealing with any pressing issues that are coming up ahead of time, things with finances, budgets, that sort of thing. And finally, we lead. During the open session, we handle our business, we develop our communication plans, we set action items, and when we're finished, we pray together, we adjourn, and then, of course, if we have staffing issues to talk about, we'll go into executive session and handle that as well. So why all this change? Well, we can do ministry better. We can streamline the process of decision making so that decisions can be made more quickly and more effectively. The leadership board will also increase the staff's accountability to the church, as they will be presenting to and asking questions from the leadership board at every meeting. And finally, the leadership board is designed to stimulate more strategic conversations. We don't just want to talk about the budget and remember what we did in the last month. We want to dream big dreams and follow God's bold vision for the church. And we think the leadership board frees us to do that. I'm sure you have questions about this. We've anticipated some of the questions in this FAQ section, and rather than read this to you, you're welcome to read this at your leisure. And then if you have further questions, I want you to feel free to email me at my email, jpowers@cc-um.org. The Leadership Board will meet the third Tuesday of every month, and we will meet in Covenant Chapel. These are open meetings, and nothing would excite me more than for people to show up and participate, members of the board or not, because Christ Church is your church, and we are all called to serve.